So good morning, everyone. I think you are looking very nice after eating hoppers, right? Okay. So just on to our session. It's very traditional that at the end of a program, we always invite a guest or two guests to talk about their own experiences related to the subject matter. So today we have two excellent guests, actually, tell you the fact, and it's my pleasure to invite the first guest speaker, Dr. Gamini Gunatilaka. So I think I need to read, otherwise I might miss something. So let me read. Dr. Gamini Gunatilaka is a highly esteemed senior consultant surgeon in Sri Lanka, whose career has spanned over 40 years. After completing his MBBS in the University of Ceylon, Colombo, 1973, he became a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of England in 1982. He returned to Sri Lanka and faced the challenge of serving as a sole surgeon at Base Hospital, Polonnaruwa for 6.5 years. Despite limited resources, now this is what's interesting for our program, right? Despite limited resources, Gamini exhibited unmatched enthusiasm and dedication to his patients' care. He revolutionized the hospital by establishing mechanisms to address both common and complex surgical problems. The Civil War further intensified his workload as he dealt with civilian and military patients with missile and blast injuries. With unwavering commitment, he improved surgical services, set up a specialized ward for military casualties, and established an intensive care unit. Gamini's experience in the war-torn areas allowed him to pursue his interest in trauma and military surgery. He fearlessly served in conflict zones, including the besieged city of Jaffna, demonstrating his commitment to going the extra mile for his patients. Following his tenure in Polonnaruwa, he worked at Base Hospital Gampaha before being appointed as consultant surgeon at the Sri Jayawardhanapura General Hospital and Postgraduate Medical Center in Kotte. He retired from this position in 2014 after 21 years of service. Dr. Gamini Gunatilaka's contribution to the field of surgery, dedication to patient care, and commitment to advancing surgical education and earned him a great respect and admiration in Sri Lanka and beyond. And something little more I need to talk about, that he is an excellent raga player. And in fact, he has he's a colorsman from St. Joseph's College Raga, the same team that I played with him. And he, of course, captained the university. Yeah, captained the university Raga team and played for clubs as well. So I think I'm talking too much. Let him express his own experiences. Over to you, Dr. Gamini.
For your kind words of introduction. Today, I stand before you, not just as a surgeon with 4 decades of experience in the operating theater, but as someone who has witnessed firsthand the delicate process of planning and coordination that keeps our patients alive and well. I have also seen the deadly consequences in failed planning and coordination, especially in a hospital setup. And I will tell you how serious it can become and how we can overcome those situations. For years, I have been privileged to heal the sick, mend the injured, and alleviate suffering through surgery. However, the success of these efforts has always hinged on a well-functioning supply chain, one that ensures the seamless availability of medical and paramedical staff, as well as essential supplies such as various types of medicine, oxygen, electricity, various equipments that are needed for surgery and for diagnostic purposes. Any disruption in this chain can have profound consequences, especially for those patients teetering on the edge between life and death. Our discussion on supply chain management today is not just about logistics. It's about saving lives, even in the face of adversity. My lecture today to this elite group of business professionals, the future business leaders of this island nation and overseas, is titled Rising Above, Embracing Adversity to Seize New Opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, as we journey through the adventure called life, each of us choose a path, a profession that shapes our destiny. Like a roller coaster ride, each career has highs and lows, unexpected twists, and moments that challenge us in ways we never imagined. These experiences, thrilling, daunting, and sometimes adverse, are what truly shape who we are and who we become. Let me give you two examples. For the first one, let me choose a company setting. I am sure many of you have faced a situation for many years and or months. You have planned and executed a major project and introduced a product only to see your client unexpectedly pulling out, bringing a project to a halt. This not only threatens team morale, but also the company's financial stability. Instead of retreating, you see an opportunity. You rally the team, pivot the project, repurpose the work for a different market. In the end, you secure a new client with even greater potential and develop a product that opens doors to new opportunities. What started as a setback turns into a game-changing moment because you have embraced adversity and innovated. Now let's think about the second scenario in a more personal setting. Imagine being diagnosed with a chronic illness that upends your life. At first, it feels like a curse, disrupting your routines and mental well-being. But instead of giving into the despair, you choose to embrace the challenge. You research, seek expert advice, and adopt a healthier lifestyle. This adversity then becomes the catalyst for a new passion for wellness, allowing you to manage your condition and inspire others facing similar challenges. Adversity, often viewed as a roadblock, is actually a catalyst for growth. Challenges, whether a failed project, missed opportunity, or unexpected obstacle, present us with a choice to let them defeat us or refine us. Setbacks push us to dig deeper, tap into inner strength, and discover new solutions. It is in these struggles that we build resilience, creativity, and a fresh perspective. Embracing adversity strengthens us, making us more capable and better prepared for future challenges. The key is not to fear adversity, but to see it as a vital step towards success. Today, I invite you to embark on a transformative journey with me, one shaped by my experiences as a doctor and surgeon. Over more than 4 decades in this field, I have faced many challenges, but three pivotal moments stand out. Moments that not only catalyze my professional and personal growth, but also carry valuable lessons you can apply in your own careers. First, my appointment to a resource-limited rural hospital where the supply chain and operational management were in complete disarray, where I was expected to provide adequate care to patients. I had no knowledge, unlike all of you here, who learn operation supply chain management. Second, the unexpected and overwhelming influx of battle-wounded patients at my hospitals, which tested our resilience and creativity in every way. Finally, the most daunting of all, flying to the war front in transport planes that had no seats, performing surgeries under extreme conditions to save lives and limbs. Each of these experiences not only shaped my career, but also deepened my commitment to serving the community in the face of adversity. Let's journey back to the 1980s, to a rural district in Sri Lanka. In this region, home to around 260,000 people, there was a single hospital with just 200 beds. Every day, 200 to 300 patients sought medical care for various illnesses. Although most of them sought treatment for common ailments, which each one of us have on and off, others had issues which required to be attended by a surgeon, a physician, obstetrician, or a gynecologist. But here was the challenge. The hospital resources were extremely limited. As far as my specialty of surgery is concerned, there was only one surgeon at this hospital, and for the entire district of 260,000 people. You could say we were short-staffed of experts. There were no management consultants. Is there any healthcare professional here who can give me a solution to this problem? I will meet you later. I also forgot to mention something, that there was no anesthetist as well. Tell me how a surgeon can operate on so many patients without an anesthetist. Any solution? There was a complete disruption in planning and supply chain as regards staff, medicines, equipment, and so on. Imagine the pressure and the responsibility that came if you were that surgeon. It was a one-man show. Think of a company today. You have the CEO and the people who do the work. But in that setup, that surgeon had to do all the work in his ward, in addition to performing surgery on 15 to 20 patients per day. Did you know that today there exists a surgical robotic system called the Da Vinci surgical system, with each unit costing around 2 million US dollars. There are more than 5,500 of these advanced robots operating worldwide. Despite their sophistication, even the simplest procedures with this system can take 2 to 3 hours. Even the most advanced robotic system available today would struggle to meet the daily surgical demands of that rural hospital. After completing my surgical training in the United Kingdom, I returned to Sri Lanka with a sense of purpose, eager to contribute to the healthcare system. I was appointed as the surgeon for this hospital, which pushed me beyond my professional comfort zone for the first time. My initial optimism quickly collided with the harsh reality on the ground. The hospital served the poorest and the most vulnerable in our community. People who had nowhere else to turn in times of illness. The facilities were woefully inadequate, falling far short of the level of care these patients deserved. In case of acute illness, some patients had to be transferred to better equipped hospitals, a delay that sometimes cost them their lives. Despite numerous complaints to the authorities, the response was frustratingly slow. Think of those times where your computer wasn't working or the printer was without any ink. How do you feel? Angry, frustrated. Yes, that is the human reaction. In a situation like this, what would you do? Where the planning and the supply chain has changed completely. You have two choices: either retreat from the challenge or rise to the occasion and become the catalyst for growth and change. I was dealing with the life of my patients, and for me, the only choice was to take decisive action to enhance the facilities and elevate the services offered to the community. However, such a monumental task could not be accomplished single-handedly. We appeal for help to uplift this hospital as it required the collective support and funding from capable individuals. Cooperation of the local community, the clergy, private institutions, the army, and the police. All of them made valuable contributions. Additionally, international organizations, as you see here, aid from Canada, with development projects in that area, stepped in, providing essential funds and equipment through their respective embassies in Sri Lanka. And we also had aid from JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, which came forward on our request to upgrade the hospital. Here we see a basic operating theater. We cannot operate in, we have to operate in an operating theater where there are facilities. Otherwise, we are putting the patients at risk. Here we have the operating table. We need a good light, the anesthetic machine, a sucker machine, diathermy. There must be adequate space, air condition, and the staff, and enough workspace, and it must be in a very good environment. Today, the operating theaters are much more sophisticated with a lot of equipment. So that is an advancement that takes place every day. We needed an anesthetist as well at the hospital, as I could not perform surgeries without an anesthetist. Despite our repeated requests, the Department of Health failed to appoint a Sri Lankan anesthetist, as no one was willing to serve in our rural hospital. Eventually, they appealed to the WHO, and we were fortunate to receive an anesthetist from Burma. He adapted very well to the circumstances and met our needs in every way, enabling me to carry out surgeries effectively. That is my anesthetist from Burma. And you can see something around the neck. That is a snake. And he used to kill the snakes and make reptile soup, which was also needed for us. Another part of supply chain to keep the nutrition going for the patients, surgeon, and the anesthetist. So that is what happened, and we got anesthetist. With good planning, support of the community, teamwork, and activation of the supply chain, including the reptile soup, the transformation that took place in that rural hospital was nothing short of astounding. What was once a dilapidated building was reborn as a bustling center for a wide array of surgeries, addressing diseases that span the entire human body. This was the essence of true general surgery experience, where every day we face unfamiliar challenges. Through innovation, adaptation, and sheer determination, I navigated these obstacles, turning them into opportunities for growth. This hands-on learning journey not only boosted my confidence, but also let me meticulously document the process. I captured photographs and shared my experiences at academic meetings in Colombo, leaving many astonished. The recognition that followed extended not just to me, but also to the staff and the hospital, which became known for its excellence. Today, in the field of management, it is called operational excellence. What began as adversity had blossomed into remarkable opportunity for growth and development, driven by teamwork and an unwavering commitment to our community, the basics of which I am sure you have learned in your MBA course. However, as life often does, it threw an unexpected challenge on our way when war erupted in the neighboring district. Everyone will face challenges in the business community. You will face challenges in your jobs. You have to find methods of overcoming these challenges and progressing. What I faced was a war situation. War is universally known as a devastating and chaotic force, presenting complex challenges and demanding tough decisions. It requires the unyielding dedication of healthcare professionals, even those without training in combat-related injuries. I found myself in just such a situation, with no prior knowledge or training in managing war injuries, something neither medical school nor surgical training had prepared me for. But my patients needed care. I could not let the adversity of the situation hinder my ability to save lives and limbs. So what does one do when confronted with the unknown? You learn, because learning is an ongoing journey, especially when lives depend on it. For me, the only way to learn was by reading about the subject from books. However, there were no medical libraries in our district, no smartphones at that time, no internet, and Google hadn't even been invented yet. My only option was to travel 200 kilometers to the medical library in Colombo, where I would spend hours reading about war surgery in textbooks and surgical journals. I photocopied these articles, returned to my station, and put the principles I had studied into practice with each battle casualty. I learned on the job, educated my team, and worked collaboratively to save lives and limbs. Recognizing the meticulous care provided to the battle wounded at this hospital, the defense authorities decided to offer further support. They constructed a special military ward for those injured in battle, with the Minister of Health, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the Army Command at that time attending the opening ceremony of the ward to acknowledge our services. This once dormant and dilapidated hospital was transformed into a hive of activity, becoming a vital center for treating the war wounded. Adversity transformed into an opportunity for growth and development, driven by teamwork and an unwavering commitment to the community. This dedication both from and to the community empowered the staff in the hospital to carry on the work even after my departure, 6 years and 4 months after I started work at this hospital. Remarkably, when I initially visited the hospital, I didn't expect to stay even a month. But circumstances change, and they change for the better. As the war intensified, the demand for surgeons on the front lines grew urgent. The situation was critical, and refusal was simply not an option. I went the extra mile by flying directly to the war zone with the troops, adapting to cramped spaces and limited resources, and relying on creativity and resourcefulness to deliver emergency surgical care. Picture this. I found myself on planes that were never meant to carry medical teams. These aircrafts were designed solely for transporting soldiers, equipment, and even weapons to the front. Seats were scarce. So, what do you do in such a situation? You sit on the floor, stand during the flight like traveling in a CTB bus, or perch on whatever object is available. I'll never forget the time I sat on what I thought was just another barrel, only to later realize it was a bomb. That was adaptation to the circumstances. That truly means we operated as a unified team, performing surgery, emergency surgeries under challenging conditions, using whatever resources we had at our disposal. Without the support of specialized trauma teams, initially, our small group comprising of a single surgeon, a junior doctor, a junior anesthetist, and army paramedics was tasked with saving lives. When you start something, you start small, and as you proceed, you identify problems, and you start developing, you rectify these problems stage by stage, and that is another aspect of planning. With time, the situation improved, and that is because we started in a small way. We identify the problems. Later on, specialized teams were made available to treat injuries of different regions of the body. That was development as we went on to improve the service and care of those injured in battle. One of our most critical operations was performing limb amputations, a procedure that requires cutting through the bone with a saw. However, we faced a significant hurdle. We had only one or two handheld saws, which had been blunt after considerable use. We had no electric saws at that time, and we had to find an alternative solution. To meet that challenge, I took the initiative to procure a new hacksaw and hacksaw blade from the local hardware stores at my expense. There was no other choice. The government could not supply us with electric saws. There was no money. These sharper and more effective blades made our work not only possible, but more efficient in those dire circumstances. That was another issue concerning the supply chain. If there is a deficiency, you must find a way of overcoming it. Whether it's a surgical saw or a hacksaw, it's the same. We'll do the cutting the same way. And it was easier to cut with this rather than the surgical saw. Transporting casualties back to Colombo presented us with another challenge. Due to the absence of dedicated medical evacuation planes, we had to get creative. Even in your field of business, you have to be creative. We removed the seats to make room for patients on stretchers. And in the process, found ourselves sitting on the floor alongside them. It was far from ideal, but it was the only option available, adding yet another unique experience to our journey. And that is how you face and adapt to challenges. Adversity, as I come to know, is a profound teacher if we are willing to learn. The key lies in our resilience and openness to growth, even in the face of toughest challenges. Throughout my career, I have found that embracing these challenges with a positive mindset has been crucial in turning obstacles into opportunities for advancement. I also decided to document my journey, not just for posterity, but to offer valuable insights for those who follow in my footsteps and to anyone seeking knowledge from my experiences. All those engineers here know Newton's third law, which states every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This is the same with adversity. Adversity isn't just something to endure, it's a gift, a challenge to discover our strength and potential. Every obstacle is an opportunity to rise, rewrite our story, and transform our lives. Embracing adversity leads not just to survival, but to thriving innovation and a future full of possibilities. So, to all those in this auditorium today, I urge you to embrace the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, to push the boundaries of what is possible and lead with passion, purpose, and integrity. The future is in your hands, and it is up to you to shape a world that is brighter, more innovative, and more sustainable for all. Passion for your work is essential, but true fulfillment comes when you genuinely enjoy what you do. My passion for surgery and the art of healing through it has brought me immeasurable joy, a joy that no amount of money can provide. Therefore, before I conclude, I'd like to share a short video that encapsulates this journey.
On September 19, 1989, the tranquility of Ganga shattered in a deadly explosion that forever altered the course of lives. At precisely 1948, when the favorite unborn conceived within a truck detonated outside the local police station, mercilessly tearing through the station's walls and leaving a chilling mark on the town. The remnants of the bomb-laden vehicle lay scattered, while the badly damaged block car and musty damaged car on the nearby road was silent witnesses to the chaos. The last wounded 20 souls was quickly transported to the Rampahar Hospital for urgent care. Among the injured were a father and his 3-year-old son, victims of the senseless violence. The father lay unconscious. His young son, suffering a penetrating injury, remained in a semi-conscious state. A piece of wood protruded from the child's head like a heavy horn, accompanied by a communicated fracture of the underlying spinal bone with the brain matter moving up. While the father's condition was diagnosed as a concussion, the child's condition demanded immediate neurosurgical intervention. Darwin, though a generous surgeon, courageously embarked on the complex neurosurgical procedure, drawing upon the fundamental principles acquired during his surgical training. Astonishingly, the child remained a complete recovery, defying the odds and growing into a resilient young man who eventually pursued education in a prestigious private school. As we delve into the extraordinary circumstances surrounding his survival, he nurtured the dream, became a doctor, and worked alongside the surgeon who had saved his life. Although his dream remained unrealized, he hoped his successful career in information technology, ascending to a prominent position in a leading telecommunication organization. The bond forged between Shikara, the survivor, and Brahman's family enrolled impressive time. 33 years later, on July 21st, 2022, the young man embarked on a new journey called marriage. Brahman and his wife were overjoyed to receive an invitation, not only to attend, but also to serve as the blessing witness during the marriage registration. Marriage often means a second birth, took on profound significance for the Recipient's survival and his life-saving service. Gandhi, having played a pivotal role in the young man's first meetings of life, extended heartfelt wishes that he stepped into his new touch, a testament to the enduring impact of compassion and resilience in the face of adversity.
Thank you very much for listening to me so patiently.
We can ask some questions. Ask anything. Okay.
Anything, not only surgery, you can ask about business.
Someone online, is it?
Online. This is Darshini. I'm very much thankful for doctor and for your courage, dedication, and care for the people at rural areas. And my question is, we are experiencing many doctors are migrating now and who learn with free education and with the Sri Lankan tax, with the taxpayers' contribution. And but once they graduate from medical faculty, so they step into a totally different stage. Like some doctors even they don't care the normal people, and so they are rushed to private practice or they are rushed to their own earnings, and so now they are migrating. And I'm work with AIA, and I visit so many doctors, and so I experience the people who are waiting at general hospital queues and also the people who are waiting at private hospital queues. And is there any national level policy planning to how many doctors are required for the next years, and how is there any planning for how many doctors should be pass out from universities? How the Sri Lankan government recover whatever the expenses incurred for their free education if they are migrating?
Actually, when I qualified as a doctor, there was a rule in our country, so to say that any doctor passing, qualifying in Sri Lanka must serve the country for a period of 5 years. And that rule was there when I qualified, and that prevented me from, at that time, we did not have a postgraduate institute of medicine in our country, and we had to go overseas for our postgraduate qualifications. And because of that regulation of 5 years compulsory service, I could not leave Sri Lanka earlier. Otherwise, I would have gone earlier and qualified earlier and come back to Sri Lanka to serve my country. But that deprived me. But I think that rule is not there anymore. All these come under what is called human rights. In Sri Lanka, there are a lot of human rights, fundamental rights. For everything, there is fundamental rights. You have the fundamental right to strike, fundamental right to keep off from work. Fundamental right to strike in hospitals means killing patients. I am a man who has never been on strike. So I can talk about strikes. For me, striking in the medical sector is virtually killing. And I can tell you another story. I'm not scared to tell these stories today because I think these must be highlighted. When I was working in Polonnaruwa, at that time, as I told you, I was the only surgeon in that hospital. And there was a big, massive strike organized by the doctors' trade union. And the president of that trade union called me personally and told me, Gamini, you have to strike today. And that was a time when war casualties being treated in that hospital. I was the only surgeon. That was the only hospital to treat our war casualties. And I said, I cannot strike today because I'm treating patients injured in battle, fighting terrorism in our country. And that message went to the headquarters. They had an inquiry and they sacked me from that union. I did not care because I formed my own union, but that union had only one member. So these are things doctors have to take brave decisions. When we enter the medical field, it is our job to heal. In my opinion, striking in the health sector is very wrong. And I can say that I have never been on strike for my entire career as a surgeon in my country. It is against my conscience to be on strike when there are sick patients, especially in the outstations. In Colombo and other places, they can go to private hospitals and get treatment. But as I showed you, where are those poor patients going to take treatment? Whatever they say, they are covering emergencies, that's all rubbish. When there is a strike, patients die. You can tell that to anyone and mention my name. I will come to any argument on any platform. So this is a situation where I think the government has to make a decision that you should not strike in the health sector. And the same applies to other sectors, especially teaching profession. Teaching profession, health profession, just the same as defense. If you are in the defense, you are in the armed forces, you cannot strike. If you are in the police, you can't strike. If you are in the prison services, you can't strike. How is it that strikes are allowed in the health sector? So this is a policy decision. It is a decision not to be taken by one party, but all the political parties must get together and say, in future, there cannot be strikes in the health sector. There cannot be strikes in the education sector. And that is how we can progress. Otherwise, we'll be in the same place for another 75 years. So regarding this policy, I think no political party has a policy regarding training doctors, the numbers required, where they should open hospitals. This is again mismanagement, bad planning, bad supply chain management. And I think those people who are managing health services should come and learn at the do their MBA at this institution so that they know how to plan, how to manage. Even today, there are hospitals where they send doctors, surgeons, and there are no facilities like what I encountered. So that is all bad planning. So these must be overcome if we are going to improve our service. And the service should apply not only to Colombo, but to the entire nation. And there has to be a system. Without that system, we cannot improve, and that system must start in the periphery. And this system is something that you can start with each Pradeshya Sabha should have a small hospital, then you come to divisional district hospitals, base hospital, teaching hospitals, and national hospitals in the main provinces. So there must be a system. They must know exactly how many doctors are required, how many specialists are required, how many specialized centers are there for orthopedics, neurosurgery, like that. It must be done. It's not depending on the politician. What has happened is certain politician gets appointed and he thinks the hospital in that area is the most important. I can give you examples. Badulla, Ampara, Polonnaru, where I worked. For that MP, that hospital is the most important. But that means there is no national plan to improve the health sector of all the people in this country, the 22 million people. It is not only the population of that district. So we can talk, but nothing will happen.
Sir,
So-
I want to thank you actually, because we have been learning about supply chain management for years.
Yes.
And after COVID, the sudden knowledge about supply chain management, effective supply chain management, productive supply chain management emerged. But still, when it comes to dealing with human lives, it's very delicate, because when, let's say, for an example, when we take a production line, once if something goes wrong, you will end up having a loss of money. But because of improper planning, improper management, whatever. But you can decide, you can discuss, and you can later come into a decision to make sure that will not happen again. But when it comes to dealing with human lives, you have to take immediate actions. It's very, very delicate. I'm working for an NGO. When there's a disaster going on, war going on, economic crisis going on, sometimes people don't have any basic necessity to live with. So we have to take immediate action. Sometimes roads, transportation are the huge challenges we face, because we can't come to the office and take decisions, discuss for weeks and take decisions. We have to take immediate decisions, because human lives don't wait until you come up with months of planning. So you have to plan immediately. So I want to take this chance to thank you for what you have done. I'm sure these were just 2-3 examples you showed us, but I want to really thank you, because I know how hard it is to take immediate action and go beyond the limits, and to think out of the box. So thank you, sir. Thank you for all the service you have done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Doc. Honestly speaking, I see you as a global hero, not only in Sri Lanka. I think I'm very touched with sharing of your experience, as well as the video that's just displayed. Now, my question is, what plans have you put in place so that the young doctors can learn from your experience as well as your job ethics?
That is another problem. Because in Sri Lanka, we have what is called the Postgraduate Institute of Surgery or Medicine. And under this, you have the training of different specialists in different branches. And we also have an association of our surgeons called the College of Surgeons. You know, it is at these meetings of the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, which has a board of study in surgery, that train the surgeons. So it is at these meetings that we can transfer the knowledge and the experience that we have to the surgeons in training. because surgeons in training have to undergo, it is a long process. First of all, they have to sit for a basic exam, which is called the MD Part 1, where they do the basic studies. And thereafter, they train in various hospitals in various specialists. So they learn their practical experience in the wards where they study. And in addition to that, they have to follow certain workshops, attend academic sessions, and also courses where we give lectures to these students so that they also will come to understand and practice what we have done. But I must also say that we cannot teach everything. Now, when I had to deal with war injuries, I had no experience in treating the war wounded, because at that time when I qualified in 1973, there was no war in our country, and no one was teaching the management of war injuries. And it was not even taught when I studied for my fellowship in England. So these are things sometimes we have to adapt to situations and learn on our own. That is what I said. Learning is an ongoing process. It is something that you cannot stop at the time you qualify as a MBBS doctor or at the time you qualify as a specialist. You learn the basics and you apply those basics when you meet patients. Your aim is finally to relieve suffering, save lives, and save limbs. Saving life comes before saving limbs. So that is why sometimes we have to amputate a limb to save a life. And that I have done many times in the war front, because life is more important than a limb. And we can give them artificial limb and they can walk, but life lost cannot be brought back. So we teach the basics. You need to adapt to situations. You have to accept challenges, and you have to get your own ideas when you encounter these difficult situations. So I didn't want to show many other slides that I have of certain conditions which are not even documented in textbooks of surgery. So when you encounter those, you apply your basic knowledge, basic principles, and go on practicing. And that is how you progress. I hope I have answered your question.
Doctor, it's an honor to have you here. And not just as MBA students, I think as fellow citizens, we are all in debt to you. And you are truly a blessing to our nation. When the war had been a curse, I think people like you are perfect examples that, you know, heroes need not wear capes. So my question is, we are going on a race in this corporate world, and where sometimes CSR is considered as a marketing gimmick. What insights can you give to people sitting here, because they may be the next CEOs, CFOs, and so on in the future? So what insights and certain points that you can give where, you know, greediness and profitability is not always first, which you have showed in your career to all of us here? And what points can you highlight, Doctor?
I think in the business world, I think you have to identify the priorities. You know, there are certain businesses which are thriving. On the other hand, you can see people who are suffering, not only in Colombo, in any parts of the country. So sometimes these CSR projects, as you mentioned, are done to get publicity, but it doesn't actually help the people who really need it. So I think wherever you are working, you encounter people who are actually suffering. So it's up to you to identify this group of people who really need support. And not only support, but also make sure that they don't wait in that same level. But with your support, they develop where they can carry on their lives on their own without depending on others. So talking about this CSR, I also have my own CSR project, because there are certain patients whom I have treated who are very poor, who couldn't afford their medicines, who had no way of going from hospital to home. So it's not a project that I have, it's a project funded by many people, my friends, relations, and others, well-wishers. And through this fund, I help these poor patients regularly so that they can have their proper nutrition, drugs, improve their houses, education of children, like that. So I think the important thing is to identify the actual people who require it. And then with that support, they improve rather than be static.
Thank you, Doctor.
Travis.
First of all, sir, thank you so much for your inspirational lecture. My question to you is, you mentioned that when you were initially put to Polonnaruwa, it was a rural hospital and there was no proper operational management system or anything to actually run the hospital. And back then, we didn't have technology and everything. But even today, with technology and everything, we still do find hurdles when it comes to resource and financial management. So my question to you is, what key skill that you acquired at that time still applies to your practice now and the hurdles that you face now?
I think today a lot of money is spent on technology for diagnosis, for treatment. At that time in the 1980s, I had no technology at all in my hospital. What I learned in medical school was what I applied to my patients. And what we learn in medical school is, first of all, you must talk to the patient. That is what is called in clinical terms, taking a history of the illness. You must take face-to-face discussion with the patient about the illness. Number one. Number two is to examine the patient thoroughly. And in my opinion, this is what I did. When I was in Polonnaruwa, I had no scans, no ultrasound scan, no CT scan, no MRI, sometimes not even X-ray. So I feel that if you do this, do a very good history, take a very good history. What you learn in medical college, you tend to forget after you pass the MBBS. And then you go for high technology. Patient sits by your side, mukad damaru, ulu gakumai, MRI arangin. That is the mistake we make. This is what must be emphasized in medical schools in their training. That you must practice medicine the way you are taught in medical school. Take a proper history, examine the patient, put the patient on the bed, examine. Even today I see patients who have never been examined. They come with pain in the abdomen. If you sometimes examine, you find a large lump, but they are not examined. And when you examine, you tell the radiologist, there's a lump, please look for this and tell us what this lump is. If you don't do that, sometimes even the radiologist misses that. So my advice is to young doctors, when I teach medical students, I always emphasize the fact that take a good history, talk to the patient, and that is only way that you can develop a relationship with that patient, and the patient gets confidence in you. If you just sit and say, mega arangen, MRI again, this mega again, arag again, that is the end of the story. That patient will go to another doctor. So you have to do a proper checkup, means history taking, examination, and I can guarantee that you can diagnose 80% of our illnesses today in Sri Lanka by these two techniques. Because even today, with all this sophisticated equipment costing millions and billions, without those we can diagnose, and I hardly do these investigations because it is very important to get the confidence of the patient by talking, taking history, examining, and then do your basic investigations. So I think what has happened is high tech is good, but you must know where to apply the high tech. Otherwise, it's a question of wasting not only the resources, the wasting patients' money. That is what is happening. You go to a hospital, you find patients carrying bags with the advertisements of the hospital. I won't want to mention these names. Patients bring the massive bags, sometimes plastic, sometimes polythene, and inside that you get so many investigations which have been done. Some are necessary, some are not necessary, but someone is making profits. So health sector is a place where you mustn't go for profits. If you go for that is what happens in the private medical sector. You go for profits because you have spent millions and billions to equip your hospital with the latest equipment. And one hospital says this equipment is better than my hospital. So patients are shifted from here to there. And the certain hospitals also want the doctors to prescribe all these investigations. And finally, the patient goes bankrupt. These are my personal experiences. I'm sorry to say this, but this is happening. Therefore, when you go to a doctor, please select your doctor. I'm not telling all of you all to come to me. But select your doctor. Even today, people go to certain doctors and then they make the mistake and then call me and ask, Doctor, අපි දැන් මෙයාව බලන්න ගියා, මෙයා කිව්වා මේක මොනවද දැන් කරන්නේ? It's too late. So if you know a doctor, please call that doctor and ask, to whom should I go when I have this problem? So this is a very big situation in this country. Because again, there is no proper system. There's no system of planning. People don't know where to go when they fall sick. That is why they go from one doctor to another, and that is called doctor shopping. It is a business. I don't make money out of patients. I must tell you that. For me, the joy is to see patients being healed. And that is why I showed you that video. That is something that has given me joy for the last 50 years. So these are things which, if you are thinking of establishing a private hospital, please think about these stuff.
Okay, let's one more question, right?
Once again, thank you, Doctor, for your time spending with us. One question that I want to ask is, over your 4 decades of experience, in hindsight, what's one thing you would have done differently within those 6 years in the rural hospital that you could have done to work around the lack of resources which you faced?
Sorry, I couldn't get you.
In hindsight, over the past 4 decades of experience that you gain, what's something you would have done differently while you were in the rural hospital for 6 years that you could have worked around in terms of the resources to kind of gain that efficiency that might have been needed in hindsight?
I think even today, I feel that the experience that I got in that hospital with only the basic resources and the support of my staff, and that is the one that gave me the experience to work in other hospitals. Even in the war front, the experience that I got in that hospital, I would not have got anywhere else, not even in the Colombo hospitals. So that is the experience. Even today, I encourage junior doctors to go to the periphery. That is where you get the experience, and that experience will help you in your practice after that. So I am very happy that I served that hospital. I uplifted the hospital, I served the community, and I got the experience. And that is what is most important for me. And I want to tell you something else. The experience that I got, I have, as I showed you, I have published in 3 books. And if anyone is interested in these books, they are available at the leading bookshops in Colombo. The first one is actually sold out. It was called In the Line of Duty, The Life and Times of a Surgeon in War and Peace. The second one is called The Extra Mile, A Surgeon's Experiences. That deals with my experiences in the war front starting from my time in Polonnaruwa, where I started war surgery and learned war surgery. Then my travel to the war front and other experiences. And the third book that was published and which was launched in February is called The Healing Cut. It is a collection of cases that I have witnessed over 40 years, which are very uncommon cases, which are not reported in standard textbooks of surgery. So these are written in a form that anyone can read and understand without much surgical jargon. So if anyone is interested, you can buy the books at the bookshops, or you can contact me and I will give you a special discount.
Okay, I think can we have vote of thanks?
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of PIM management, I feel extremely privileged to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Gamini and the organizing team for today's very insightful presentation. So I'd like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Gamini for your exceptional journey as a senior consultant surgeon, especially in trauma and military surgery during very challenging times in our country. You have indeed educated us a lot in terms of endurance and perseverance in very challenging and stressful times. So I'd like to invite one of our learning partners, Mr. Chulit, to come forward to present our token of appreciation to Dr. Gamini. Thank you very much again, Doctor.
Okay, before the next presentation, I think because both presenters are here, we might take a photograph of everyone. So what we will do is the photograph will be taken from that end. Let me request all of you to stand, okay? And we will stand here, look at that way, and so you are in the background. And please stand. And also have some nice smiles and all that kind of thing, very important thing. Gamini. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Thank you, Gavani.
Bag? You had a bag? No, you can sit here for a while. Yeah, yes, yes. No, he'll stay here for a while. You understand the supply chain then, really. He'll stay. So lifelong learner. He's a lifelong learner. So I think it was such an impressive presentation. I mean, although it was during a wartime, sad situation, but still the way he connected to our operation subject was great. So thank you once again, Doctor. Now we have a different type of session, but that is about supply chain and how do we really manage resilience. So I introduced this resilience module, especially for the first time this year. So now practical aspect of implementing resilience, you can hear from a practitioner. So she's Rumal Fernando. She's currently the head of customer service and logistics at Unilever Sri Lanka, my former company. So she's a past pupil of Visakha Vidyalaya. She graduated from University of New Delhi and joined Unilever in year 2000 with the field sales team. I think she was the first female salesperson in Unilever at that time. In the year 2004, she joined the supply chain and carried out many roles, including heading procurement function for almost 10 years. And before that, you were in finished goods sourcing. That's how she moved into my department at that time. Then currently she is the head of the customer service and logistics department and ensures the entire network of warehousing and distribution operations of Unilever to happen everything in a seamless manner, despite many challenges that we experience nowadays. She holds an MBA in International Trade and Logistics from the Postgraduate Institute of Management. She's also one of our alumni, and her experience in the FMCG business spans over 24 years. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and is also the Vice President of Women in Logistics and Transport currently. And she's passionate about creating inclusive workplaces for all, and is a certified mental health lead trainer at Unilever and drives the well-being agenda across the company, which is an important part in the world we live in now. So over to you, Rumal. I hope you will all reconnect with the session that I did. And after that, I'm having an exciting thing today, a quiz. So Kahoot quiz. So have all your phones ready and let's do that later on, right?
Okay, thank you, Gayani. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be here to PIM because this is not a place which is not known to us. Thank you, Gayani and Dr. Travis, for inviting me to spend time with you all. And I'm really happy Dr. Gamini Gunathilaka stayed on because I wanted to, anyways, while he was speaking, I want to reference to him for some of my personal experiences with Dr. Gamini Gunathilaka. I was his patient 27 years back. And then he mentioned a little while back how the current doctors, when you have a migraine, you ask them to go and do MRI rather than understanding the overall problem that the patient has. Now, I this is completely out of the lecture, but I wanted to mention this, whether he stayed here or not, to show you that he really practiced what he preaches. So in 1997, while I was studying in Delhi University, I had a bad attack of chickenpox. Chickenpox normally is a normal thing. No, it comes and it goes, but mine was never the case. It got infected and then it led to cellulitis. It was a bad cellulitis. This entire face up till here was like, swollen like. You see, I don't want to reference to any country, but you see very big male or females, like, where you don't have a neck, you don't have a face. This entire thing was covered between the skull and the skin with pus cells. So there was a major surgery that was done while I was in Delhi. They said that was the only way out. So they cut me open here and then they gave me medication. Then they kept on dressing me up at that time also, every dressing up cost us about $100 per day. Then after a little while, after 3-4 dressings were done, I was brought back to Colombo. So after coming to Colombo, that was a time when Dr. Gamini Gunathilaka was, I think, practicing in Jawadhanapura Hospital. So my father took me to him and showed me. And then because the requirement in Delhi, you know, the Delhi hospital was to keep on changing this dressing until all that pus cells were taken out. But what he did was, I remember this very vividly, he took a syringe and he put it here and he drew up this pus cells, which are yellow, ugly solution, and which I think he did a culture on and figured out the antibiotic that would work for that particular infection. And then he gave that antibiotic for me to take for some period of time, and all that swelling went off. So what that surgery could probably have been able to omit if they at Delhi, you know, Delhi hospital did that little thing, and then probably they gave me that antibiotic. But I enjoy having this scar on my head. When people become difficult with me sometimes, especially when I was doing my procurement function, I show them my scar and say, I'm a tough person, you can't mess with me. Yeah. So that's a little bit of, I wanted to say, especially, I'm really glad because of that, Dr. Gamini Gunathilaka stayed on. Yeah. I'm here to talk to you about resilient supply chains. Now, before going into resilient supply chains, I'm sure we all know pre-COVID, I don't know which functions you're in, which companies do you work for, but whichever the companies you are working for, I know pre-COVID, most of the hot seats were in marketing or in sales, right? Or maybe a little bit in finance, because the movers and the shakers of companies were from marketing and sales functions. So they were kind of differently treated because they were the people who go out, who sell, who promotes. So supply chain was never a big hot topic, never discussed here. But with COVID, what happens? Like they say, every dark cloud has a silver lining. The silver lining was for us, the supply chain professionals. With COVID came the problems of securing materials, securing medicine, securing raw materials, packing materials, transporting goods from one place to another, manufacturing in manufacturing facilities. We had to stay in long queues trying to buy our own medications, basic things like bread or a washing powder. So then this is the time when supply chain was given a better priority than any other function that we've known in companies. And I'm sure if you all are working in any company, whether if it is in FMCG, banks, any other place, I am sure you will be able to go back in time and remember this. So I think with that came the focus on supply chain. And as a supply chain professional, I think I am in the right place now. And if you guys are in supply chain, I am sure you will also feel the same way, that you all are in the right profession, right place, because this is the hot seat now. This is where we come in and make or break a company, because we are that powerful now. We can, if our supply chain is strong, if we are able to deliver what we say we will deliver on time, in full, in right quantity, supply chain will thrive, so will the company. But if we aren't able to, we've seen so many businesses collapsing one after another last couple of years. So my presentation would not have too much of theory, but Gaini wanted me to basically speak to you about from a perspective, a practical perspective of what has happened, what we do, and what you can learn from. Because as Unilever, we have learned a lot, not only from our own company, but we've learned from all our sister companies across the world when actually challenges came to us and how we overcame those, so that even if you feel right now, oh, but I'm not in a company which is multinational, which is, I'm in a truly a local company, how will I get to know all what Unilever got to know? This is the time for you, because we would love to share our experiences with you so that you are able to, whenever if there's a crisis, you are able to implement those to come out of it. So I'm really happy to be here today, Dr. Travis, because also this is a place which we have enjoyed a lot, made friends, lifelong contacts, and I'm sure, and a lot of fun. And I'm sure you are also doing the same. Okay, now next slide. Before I go to it, I must tell you, this is not an advertisement about Unilever, but I was thinking how to touch you in the simplest manner of what a supply chain does and what happens if it disrupts. So as Guyan introduced, I've been with Unilever for 24 years. These are the brands I only know. Of course, I know my competitor brands. So I thought in a forum like this, it's best that I use my brands to tell this story. Yeah. Okay, in order for us to understand what a supply chain does and what happens if things don't happen properly as per the plan, let us just go back in time. Not many years, not many days, just few hours. Just think about when you woke up in the morning, what exactly did you do, right? Now, you may have gone to your washroom, want to brush your teeth, so you would have used a toothpaste, toothbrush, and then you would have washed your face with a face wash. Then you would have used a soap, either a face wash or a soap. Then if you thought you want to have a body wash today, you would have used a body wash. If you wanted to bathe, you would have used a Sunsilk shampoo or a Dove shampoo or a conditioner. And then once you've done, you came back and you had nicely ironed clothes which smelled very nice with the perfumes of Sunlight or a Surf Excel or a Comfort fabric softener. It felt good. If you're boys, you all would have used your Export deodorant spray, which makes you feel good. If you're a girl, you would have used some makeup, yeah? And then you wanted to have your favorite sandwich with butter and Marmite, yeah? And you wanted to have a malted drink before you came because you wanted more energy, yeah? And then when you go home, or if you are going to stay here, you would have brought your lunch flavored with a little bit of flavoring, yeah? So this is how Unilever brings every day, how we connects with you. Now, for a moment, imagine when you went to the washroom, you wanted to brush your teeth, you took your toothbrush, there's no toothpaste. You were washing your hair with shampoo and now you have no conditioner. This happened to me just yesterday, yeah? And then when you came to wear your clothes, no clean clothes because there were no washing powder. Or else, if you couldn't have breakfast because there was no Marmite for you to eat your bread with, that is a disruption for you. Your life will become completely turned upside down because this was your plan. Now plan is disrupted. Now, for you to have these brands in your homes, someone has to go and buy it. If you are a little smarter, you may have not have to go and buy. You may have ordered online, yeah? But even if you were to go and buy or order online in those platforms of online, or when you go to a supermarket or a general trade store, these stocks has to be available, right? Now, for these stocks to be available, this good has to be there. How will you get these goods? Because it has to be from a company, it has to be transported to these specific locations for you to reach, right? That is where the distribution part comes in. But before transportation, what happens? You have to store this good in a warehouse. Now, that is a job that I do, warehousing and transportation. When the goods are being manufactured, it is stored someplace in an optimal conditions, and then it is also transported on time in full to the places that it is sold at. Now, for me to store goods in warehouses, I need to have stocks manufactured, which is manufactured in a factory. Now, for manufacturing in a factory, you need raw materials, packing materials, and all other input. Now, who buys this? Procurement function buys it. But how do you know what needs to be bought and at what quantity you need to buy? A planner will have to tell. The buyer, look buyer, you buy this many tons of soda ash, this many tons of sodium sulfate or perfumes, buy this much in this quantity and I want this in my warehouse by this time for me to produce, right? Now, how will the planner know? Planner will know from the demand planner. Demand planner will connect with the market sales team, the demand planning team will figure out how much has been sold earlier. If it is a If it is a peak season time during maybe April or December, what sold more and what are the trends? And therefore, these are the quantities I need to buy. Now, what I explained to you was in reverse supply chain. From your end consumer point till what we produce, that is what's happening in any company if they are in a manufacturing sector, right? So you may have learned in theory what a supply chain is. What I said in reverse is here now. But you must understand one other thing. Supply chain does not only do production, not only do distribution, not only buy things. There are so many things that we do to connect with an organization, whether you are in manufacturing, whether you are in a bank, whether you are in medical sector. There are so many things that we do. Basically, no one in our organizations can skip supply chain. You have to meet us somewhere down the line, because we are that important. We touch every department in very different ways. Now, we do cost control, right? We do quality assurance of products that we produce. We have, so we are managing risk. Let's talk about a little bit of risks, what we have seen earlier, but we manage risk. We are driving innovations. And I think I was really happy when I was listening to Dr. Gamini Gunatilaka. His innovation was that surgical saw versus what he, because at the end of the day, if you can't have what you want, then you need to find innovative ways of doing that. So we also, in our portfolio, about 450 brands, SKUs, we are also driving innovation now and again, right? And then we look after customer service. At the end of the day, if the customer is you, me, every one of us, if we are not happy with what the organization, with the company gives you, you are going to go back to somebody else who gives you better offerings, right? So customer service become a big part of supply chain. Then we look after CSR, corporate social responsibility. There are a lot of things that happens out there in the market in terms of government, in terms of regulation, in terms of our own company's mandates. How do we drive that? And logistics and warehousing, we spoke about it. Compliances. A lot of regulation keeps coming to Sri Lankan business, not only Sri Lankan business, across there are regulation. How fast we are able to adapt to those regulation is another part that we drive. So managing data, supply chain basically thrives on data, decisions made on data, projects done on data. So we have to manage our data properly, yeah? Then driving partnerships. What partnerships are we talking about? So while internally we are talking about planning, sourcing, deliver, manufacturing, and customer service, we also connect with so many others outside a supply chain, outside an organization, like our suppliers. Because without these suppliers, you are not able to manage. Especially during crisis time, you will realize if you had great, strong partnership and collaboration with the suppliers, you win. If you don't, you don't, because those guys also go to places who pays you on time, who does innovations on time, who helps them on managing, who passes knowledge to those suppliers. So they become part and parcel of our entire chain. So they don't become outsiders, they become part of our chain. And because of us, because of them, they also provide so much of job opportunities out there. Yeah. Then building resilience. It's a big topic which you've been talking about throughout, especially post-pandemic, when unknown issues come, challenges come and sit at you and stares at you. How do you overcome it? And then we are also talking about profitability. I mean, when when the finance teams go and make their pricing, if my forecasting of pricing is not right, we will price it at a very high price, and then the consumers will go away. If I price it at a very low price, then my margins will go away. So how do you strike a balance? And that input goes to finance only from us, yeah? And then managing resources. Now, managing resources is sometimes we might buy more, sometimes we might buy less. If I buy less, we will not have material to produce. If I buy more, it will lead to business waste, and that will go for write-offs, and that's going to be a problem for the business. So right throughout every everything that we, these are little bits of things that we do. There are, if you want, you can find more of inputs that we give as supply chain professionals to business, but these are key stuff. So when you do this, when you manage resources, what happens? You reduce cost and waste. When you reduce cost and waste, you are able to put that money you put into raw material or finished good into your innovations, your promotions, and you can better use that money in your business. Cost control will give you cost control also will give you pricing strategies, like I explained to you earlier. If I give you good forecast, correct forecast, there is nothing called a correct forecast. Forecast will always be right, or they'll have a bit of plus or minus. But then if you are closer to the reality, you are being able to price your product efficiently so that you are able to catch your market share properly. Then when you do quality assurance, we give the reliability and satisfaction to consumers. When you give reliability and satisfaction to consumers, consumers keep coming back to us. Then managing risk will give you opportunity for business continuity planning. Driving innovations will give you the competitive advantage. When you do innovations first time right, and when you are the first to go to the market, consumers rally around with you, and then somebody else will come, and it will take some time for them to also grab that market share. Customer service again increases market share because you're happy customer. You will continue to keep coming back to us. CSR will give us brand image and consumer trust that we are a responsible company. Even sometimes if a product is expensive, that has been, whatever input that has gone into producing has been without child labor, without damaging the environment. So those are things the consumers now keep looking at it, because right now, when you look at your consumers and customers, they are more educated. They're not like customers or consumers about 30, 50 years back. They know, they have a lot of intelligence in market, and they also have the access to what happens in the world, and people will start demanding that of us. Logistics and warehousing, we discussed about it, optimal storage, on-time distribution. Compliances will give the alignment to the law of the land. We can't do things what we want. We have to be aligned to whatever the government, whatever the law of the land stipulates. Managing data basically gives us accuracy on forecasting, and also gives us trends, and it helps us on our agility. Driving partnerships, we discuss about it, supply chain security and feasibility. And building resilience will give you, again, business continuity, which is a big issue which we have faced last couple of years. And driving profitability will also give cost saving to the business and enable business growth. Yeah. So I just wanted, I'm sure this we have learned in our lessons, in our classes here as well. But what I want to leave you with this slide is simply, supply chain is not about buying a raw material, producing it, sending it to a shop and making a happy consumer. But internally, when you look at an organization, whether you are attached to any company, any business, these are things that we do outside what we know that we should do or what theory says. Yeah. So in this space, we move to global challenges, which we have seen right throughout. And I'm sure, I don't know how many of you are in supply chain right now. If you can show of hands and say how many of you are attached to supply chain. One is there. Good. I'm glad at least one is there. But I'm sure even if you are not in supply chain, now you are becoming our partners internally, and you will meet us in your company. So you will know what we do, how we do things, and why we do things. So it should be a greater learning for you of what challenges we face. But if you're also in finance, or if you will also know that these challenges are very real challenges for you all as well. So one is trade uncertainty. Let me tell you an example. We had a financial crisis a few 1 year back. And during this time, we had a huge problem importing raw materials, packing materials to us. Now, for Unilever, not only for Unilever, but all manufacturing companies are dependent on raw material imports. We do not have a base, right? So then, because we had the dollar crisis, we had, now our products, our raw material comes from China, USA, UK, and different places. Now, when a ship sails, it takes about 4 to 8 weeks for us to bring this material if you're shipping it. When the ship has sailed, then there comes this PA5 endorsement requirement. Those who are working for banks will know what a terrible mess it was for us, because endorsement requirement comes halfway of my journey. Now it has left the ship, but endorsement requirement says before the ship sails, I need to ensure that there's funds in my bank for us to, import materials. Everybody crumbled big time. It was a big frustration to all of us. Similarly, taxes keeps on coming. That is probably to protect the local industry, probably to manage the currency issue that we have. It could be many things, but these kind of challenges, we can't predict. It just happens. Then how do you work on it? Yeah. And then geopolitical instability. We all know what is happening in Israel, Palestine. We know what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. Who thought when Russia and Ukraine went into big issues, big fights over there, that there will be energy crisis in UK? We didn't think like that, no. But Ukraine is a big exporter of energy for heating, for especially for UK. And also I understand that even the feedstock for cattle and chicken, even to Sri Lanka, comes from Ukraine. So all this entire setup got disrupted because of geopolitical instability. Freight bottlenecks. So because of that, right now we know the Red Sea issue, we know port congestion issues, we know the vessels are bypassing us. So therefore there are freight bottlenecks that keeps coming up. And Red Sea issue is a huge crisis for importers like that, like us, and for all of us, because additional 21 days voyage time now gets added because we are not able to go through Red Sea because of the crisis that is there, because there are challenges in moving there because of the fights that's happening between Israel and Palestine. So this has added not only challenge in terms of lead time of the journey, but also exceptional cost we are incurring because the material is now coming through Cape of Good Hope. So through South Africa, and it's coming to us, so which is giving us about 21 days additional lead time. Port congestions we are facing every day, even now as we speak. We bring in the Marmite semi-finished good from UK. The vessels keep bypassing Sri Lanka because there's congestion at ports. So it goes to Indonesia, it goes to Singapore. Now I am bringing materials thinking I should get it in 2 weeks. Now in 2 weeks I should get, but now this has bypassed, it's gone to Indonesia, it has to come from Indonesia. Now if I don't have the right level of inventory with us, I'm done because I won't have Marmite. Marmite, I am sure if you all are happy consumers of Marmite, because Marmite, they say you either love it or you hate it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you like it, you will continue to go to all shops, all supermarkets looking for Marmite when Marmite is not there, because we've not had our Marmite shipment, semi-finished goods coming into us. So we can't bottle it and give it to you, right? That is the kind of constraint that you have. And then labor shortages. Now, someone was asking from doctors, so what are we going to do about doctors going abroad? But my thinking actually is we should think about us as global citizens. How many people leave Unilever? My gosh, every day somebody leaves, but the companies don't collapse because we keep on grooming, we keep on bringing people, we keep on training them. Every company, if you look at CEO levels and all that, you do find someone from Unilever there. So it's like we are now becoming like a university. We teach them, you go, but just because you go, it doesn't mean that it collapses. But when it comes to medical profession, I'm sure it's a different thing altogether. It's not like making a soap, or soap goes wrong, you rework it and you make another soap. It doesn't work like that. When you are operating on someone, you can't have chances. So we do need people, but worker shortage is not only doctors. Worker shortage is engineers. We've seen so many engineers going off. We've had at one time about 17 people leaving. And then how do you keep a talent pipeline being developed? And how do you bring in, give internships to university students so that you continue to, keep on keep on upskilling them so that we know where to go to when we, we can't stop people going out. So therefore, of course, for professions like medicine, I guess there should be better enforcement on how you serve your country and then go. But in our organization, this is a normal thing. So we take it on the bump and we say, oh, we are a global university, let people go. It doesn't matter. We will teach more. We will upskill people. We will bring the students who are keen on being on FMCG business, and we will train them. Environmental pressures. You remember Express Pearl, where it sank close to our shores, where there was so much of plastic pellets were going all across. And that time, none of us ate fish because we thought the plastic will be eaten by fish and all that. So that is a huge problem we have. Not only this, but environmental discharges that we do. A lot of other things, plastic that we add into business. Those are all environmental pressures. And how do we collect those plastic? How do we do a PCR post-consumer recycling? How do we do? Those are the things as companies that like us and everybody are faced with right now. Trade agreements. Who thought when UK went out of European Union, UK will be in such a mess? You can't import, you can't export, everything has gone up, labor has gone out, and everything is becoming very expensive. Resurgence of pandemic. How can we say a pandemic will not come again? COVID itself, and there's monkeypox as we speak. These things come, and how would we have ever thought when we heard about China, first case of pandemic, did we think that it'll come to us? We said, oh, it's in China. It'll happen, it'll go, nothing will happen to us. That is what we thought first. And we were very happy. But people keep moving. We are global citizens. We keep moving around. And when we keep moving around, what happens? We carry the germ with us, right? So then what happens? Big problem. Entire world came to a stop. We all came to a stop, and we didn't know really what happened. I will talk a little bit about this when I go into my practical aspects of what we did as Unilever. That I will leave for that time. And generative AI. AI is good. Most of us write our theses through ChatGPT. I know PIM does not allow, many places does not, but do we not? We do. We go through ChatGPT. We tell them, give me a solution. You generate an image for me. You just give, and it comes. Not much of issues of going through all the documentation, reading books. But imagine, and the reason why it should not be done for our theses and our decision making is also because this generative AI can pull wrong data for you also. Just as much as it can give you right data, there can be wrong data also. If you are working on wrong data as supply chain professional, you will make wrong decisions. When you do wrong decisions, you will maybe do wrong investment, or you will do wrong promotions, and that will cost you a lot of money. So generative AI is also a global channel, because then there are also hackers who keep hacking you all the time. And your data is lost. So those are problems that we have as we progress with technology. We do also have these issues coming up as well. All of this escalates our cost, right? Everything escalates our cost. For example, when we add 21 days more to come through South Africa, we add that much of cost, that much of fuel we use. So that is also money that we spend. Then industry is affected. Basically, every industry we know was affected through all these things. Seasonal products like IKEA, all those because seasonal products are there only for that season. And then you are not able to provide with their requirements, so you are at a loss. Automotive industry, especially Japan, when you do just in time inventory models, your product is going to come from some country to you. Now that lane is closed. How are you going to bring your product to life is a problem. Energy and oils, we know right now also, we know what happens, petroleum and chemicals, tea and apparel exports, we also are facing this. Consumer goods like Unilever, what we are finding it difficult. Fertilizer industry, we have, these are affected, and tires, spares and appliances, all those things. So these are things that keep, at the end of the day, touch our life in some way or the other. All these industries which are mentioned here or not are affected through this, and that is causing supply chain disruption. for organizations, so we are unable to then service our consumer requirements. Issues faced by local manufacturers. Now, similar issues, I will not spend too much of time here, but issues again, if you look at it, because I told you, most of our local manufacturers, 80–90% is being imported into the country. Very less we use locally because we don't have the relevant required materials. So all these things, because of increased voyage time, because of the freight costs, because of congestions in ports, lack of effective or cost-effective alternatives, like, I will also touch a little bit here. Now, we tried to use multimodal transportation. Now, we have a distributor in Batticaloa, and our stock go to Batticaloa, and that lorry comes empty with empty miles. No backhauling is done. So we wanted to connect with Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola at that time used to use the train facility to send their Coke bottles to Batticaloa, but they need their bottles to be brought to Biagama, their factory. So we did a trial and it all went right. And cost-wise, we were going to share our costs now. So it's not going to, I'm not going to incur costs and they are not, because they also, if they want to bring the empty bottles, they have to send a vehicle. So now it's an absolutely wonderful partnership we are looking at. But what happened? Trains start striking. Trains don't give it on time. You will have to wait for 2 days for us to send it on the train. Now, our promise to our consumer is when we get our order today, within 24 hours, we deliver to our customer, who are the business partners. Now, I can't wait for the train to come, or I can't wait for the strike to stop. So that didn't work out. But multimodal transport, if we can use, that is an ideal way of minimizing our cost as well. Delays in production because of all the concerns that we are talking about here. We can't get our material. Idling labor. Not only that we don't have labor, the labor that we have is also idling. They are not actually working to their optimal requirements and standards that they should be. And if we have a raw material issue or a packing material issue, of course, they have nothing to do, so they will anyway idle. Yeah. So all of this gives rising cost. And when the cost rises, we have to price for it. We are so will go from X price to a 2x price, and then the consumers are finding, am I going to pay this? Is this what I want to pay right now, or do I want to pay it on my groceries? So then therefore, market shares eventually as companies, all of us will lose. So operational inefficiencies can also disrupt businesses big time because of that. Yeah. So these are basically things that we've all seen and all experienced. But let me just give you some example, a little cluttered slide with a lot of words. But let me tell you what we can do and what we have done in past also to overcome challenge. Why do we want to overcome challenge? That will minimize our exposure and challenges, and it will increase our benefits to the company. Now, I will take you through very quickly what the challenges, solutions, and benefits are with some of the example. I'm sure when you read this, you will be able to sometimes relate to it, sometimes may not be. But for example, if you look the challenge of single source or single specifications. Now, if we are only buying, let's say, for example, soda ash, which goes into washing powders, only from China. During the COVID pandemic time, it would have been a big problem because the material will not reach to me because entire route was disrupted. So we went to Bulgaria. So we went to India. India is also, but India only problem is India's capacities are not enough for them to even service their local market. So getting it from India was difficult, but Bulgaria came it at a cheaper cost also. Now, these are areas now, and also in companies like ours, because they are global companies. If you take a shampoo, for example, Dove shampoo, we have different specification. Us in Sri Lanka, in Japan, in India, in other country, in Europe, we will have different specification. Even if we have different specification of a material, what happens is, even if I go out of a material, even to buy from India, I can't buy because my specification, my product formulation is made on a particular specification. So harmonizing this raw material specification is also a big deal for us, which we've embarked on, so that whenever we have a problem, a crisis for a short period, that I can borrow from India, I can borrow from Pakistan, Bangladesh, close to proximity countries, so that I can, until that vessel comes to me, I still have an option, which helps build resilience for us. Similarly, offshoring, you have probably learned about offshoring, outsourcing, because that is the best thing that can happen to us in terms, because sometimes you go to the right people with more experience. And again, when you're offshoring, the problem we have now is if something is coming from, let's say, again, I'll take that soda ash example of bringing material from Bulgaria. It used to come through Red Sea, Suez Canal. But now if I only had Bulgaria there, I would have a problem because my cost will go up because it's coming around Africa and it'll take lead time. So that is why I have China on the other side now when I have a problem, right? So it helps on, and then also it will help me to avoid certain vulnerable lanes I can avoid for a short period of time. Now, strategic inventory management is another thing a planning team mostly does, and it helps us create additional buffers if there's a problem, and if I have single source, and if I know products elsewhere across the country across the world who can give it to me, then I might as well create more buffers with me, create a little bit, get them more warehousing space and keep those material. Of course, it'll have a challenge on my cost because I'm holding stocks, but then that will also give a ability for us to face uncertainty. Lack of visibility is a big problem. When a ship sails from a destination, you don't know where the ship is. Now with Maersk, we have a tracking system as such. When the ship sails, I know exactly where the ship is at a given time. So I know when it will come to my my port and how I can clear it as early as possible. Then freight disruption, we talk about multimodal. Unfortunately, it's really not happening here. But when you are again transporting goods, let's say from UK to some other country elsewhere, maybe you can use the inland transportation than sea route. You can avoid it. Not having centralized data. Trust me, any company, which company you belongs to, you will not have data at the same point. That's a big problem as Sri Lankan companies face. If you look at India, many a times you get a lot of data and we struggle big time. We run from pillar to post to get the data. But when you have the centralized data, you make conscious decisions looking at the data and making sure that you are taking right decisions based on that. That helps us on predictive analytics and also facing vulnerabilities. Supply disruption. Now, when you have a supply disruption, if you don't have the right kind of support from your suppliers, you are done, right? If you don't have the right kind of understanding with your suppliers, let me take another example of a supplier and us. I think in 2016, on February 4th, one of our we have only one big factory in Horana, factory caught fire, and the factory caught fire and 2 plants were burned down to the ground, the foods plant and the personal care plant. Entire thing in half an hour burned down to the ground. So we had the challenge of, at that time, manufacturing Astra margarine. It was our brand then, but now it's sold. So we had a problem. Okay, the fire happened today, and it was in February. March is the time where we sell the most, the peak, because April is holiday and people start baking cakes. So how are we going to get this sorted out? So then we interact, because we used to buy our oils from a local oil refinery. So we contacted them and said, look, we have a problem now. And they also do our competitor products, trust me. So they're also a competitor. They also used to put margarines, bakery fat out there. So we went and said, look, we have a problem. Our factory burned down. We need our production. So what do you think they said? Did they say no? No, they said, no, come to my office. Their facility was at Keravalapitia. Come to my office. They gave their boardroom to the entire Unilever staff and say, sit here, plan your things. I will get it done. And in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, we started producing our Astra margarine into the market, and we did not have any losses because of that. That would only be done by a supplier who believes in you, who trusts in you, who also had got help from you to develop themselves, to get into regional standards. So those are the things, those are the benefits that you will get when you are actually looking at supply partnership. There are many things like that we can bring into, but this is one example. Dependency on manpower. We talk about manpower, people moving out and all that. What do? Lot into automation, lot of into artificial intelligence, which we bring in right now. So that will create a little bit of lesser dependency on people. It doesn't mean, everything can be replaced by artificial intelligence or automation. No, we need people as well, but then we need to now see how we strike a balance there. Then lack of business continuity is a big problem. Business continuity is something really, really important, whichever the company you belong to. Even if you are in a bank, you will need your business continuity. If your systems fail, what happens? Who will be the people who will be acting upon it and working on that? So across BCP teams, processes, standard operating procedures needs to be documented, because if I leave today, if somebody else come, that person doesn't have to go around the entire company to figure out how do you do things in logistics and customer service, because that is documented. So these are things which you need to do as you progress, whichever company you belong to. These are tips that you should actually look at as you progress, especially during challenging times. Okay, this is the final slide, learnings and experience sharing. So I thought, let me take you through three scenarios. One was the pandemic. We all know what happened. Now, pandemic came and hit us, I think, in 2019, March. Yeah, March 10th or March 11th. They closed 21. 20, yes. Yeah, 2020. March 10th or 11th was the, or 12th maybe, I don't know, somewhere that time was the time that they closed the country, no? So do you think, I mean, most of the country, most of us in Sri Lanka, then only woke up, oh my gosh, it's now come here, now we are also going to be affected. But for us in Unilever, we worked on COVID pandemic related work from October year before. Why? It hit China. Now we get to know the information because we work with China. Unilever China was telling the entire Unilever world what is happening. So we started, we belong to a cluster called South Asia Cluster. So South Asia Cluster buyers. At that time, I was in buying. So I've had all the bad times of buying and customer service logistics also right throughout these couple of years. So the buyers got together and we started prioritizing what are the materials, where do we have alternative sources, what are the alternative materials which we can use if we are not able to get from China. So like that, we worked from October last year onwards to make alternative measures of materials and supplies and how much of material I can go to Pakistan or India and buy. Because of that, we didn't have any shutdowns, we didn't have any problems, we didn't have any issues related to productions. So what the learning we've had is, whatever happens here, now monkeypox is here in Singapore, do not underestimate the power of a pandemic, because we've seen that happening. We've seen companies collapsing because they could not really support these entire challenges, to face these challenges. Then the crisis management team, like I said earlier, there was a specific crisis management team that was looking into the well-being of people, securing materials, making sure that the production runs and all that. And the distribution, how do we do with the minimum effect on people? Those are things that we were looking at. And of course, stakeholder management. We had to make sure all our stakeholders, be it the health ministry, be it the government, be it the customs, we had to make sure that we are in close contact with the ministries. We are keeping them informed of what we are doing to make sure that we mitigate risk. And we were able to churn out hand wash sanitizers, all that in record-breaking time, because we realized that was the time that we needed. Sanitizer was never a portfolio SKU of us. We churned it out in 1 or 2 weeks time. Of course, manufacturing it is much easier than manufacturing a soap, but then we managed to do that. Now then come to protests. How many of you were there on the Aragalaya protest and in the Goldface protesting the government crisis that we've had? We've all been there, right? We've all seen the problems we've had. So again, proactive knowledge sharing. Here I'm saying See, and the other thing you need to understand, these protests didn't happen, is not happening in Sri Lanka for the first time. So many protests like these happened against government, against the financial crisis in many parts of the country. So we've got input from Venezuela, we got input from Brazil, we got from Egypt. So, those meetings, most of the finance team, we've had team meetings and they were saying, now we've had these meetings with our management team again with those countries, and they were saying, look guys, this is at the beginning of the protest. They said, look guys, you will run out of your electricity, you will not have your fuel, you all will have to stay in queues to buy your food and normal items. And we actually thought that was an exaggeration. When did that ever happen? It will not happen in Sri Lanka, but trust me, it did happen. We all stayed in queues. So with this proactive information, what did we do? We made sure that our distribution centers are equipped with additional fuel, additional generators if there were power cuts, so that we are still able to operate. We made sure a lot of vaccines related, like, all these relevant required medical equipment were brought in, and we actually donated some to the government as well. We did a lot of work around that, so that when it actually hit us in about 2 or 3 months' time, we were prepared. Now, for example, our distribution center did not close even for half a day. We continued to, we got all our relevant approvals from the police, the authorities. So we were now prepared. When it happened, only everybody else were trying to find ways while we were able to service the consumers and customers and ensure their products are out there in the market. So, again, while doing that, we made sure, we were working in very difficult conditions, that our people need to be looked after, our assets need to be protected. Those are areas that we've had real concerns and which we worked on, because we've got proactive input on the same. And the finally economic crisis still is, we are coming out of it now. Again, Sri Lanka was not the first time a crisis has been seen everywhere. You see Bangladesh going through it. Myanmar had problems. So then what happened was, we needed to get a lot of dollars, because we spent a lot of dollars in bringing materials. So we learned from Myanmar what happened in Myanmar when they had a problem. How did they make the now we are mostly focused on import, local business. How did we make sure that we are going to do an export market? How do we start exporting to other countries? And then while exporting, you get your dollars. And of course, we were supported by a global company as well with funds, but export. Now we have established a big export market for many countries now, because of the economic crisis related learnings which we have heard. And then listen more to consumer voice, observe behaviors. During this crisis, people don't want to spend, they prioritize their spending. You have big 1 liter packs, maybe you need a 40 milliliter pack, maybe you need a small washing powder pack, maybe you need sachet packs. So those are the things that move during this COVID or economic or the regulate time. Those were the things that we learned from market, we learned from other companies, especially across Unilever world, and we implemented. So like I said earlier, we supply chain professionals are people you can't miss in an organization. Which department you belong to, you will meet us, and you will now know what we do. And we are quite capable of making or breaking companies. So I would hope that this, whatever information shared with you guys, it will be helpful for you, whichever department you belong to. Thank you very much.
I'm mindful about the time now, because you guys have to go and have lunch. And also before that, we need to go to a quick quiz also. Are there any quick questions? Yeah? Oh, it was perfectly clear, or what? Okay. Any question or comment even? Those who are not in supply chain probably said they can break or make. Remember? Right.
All right.
Yes. Thank you, Rumal.
Okay, thank you
Anyway,
very
thank you
much.
very much. Okay. Doctor, let's go to that. No, otherwise, quiz, right? Quiz. We do the handover thing. Okay, can we get
Once again, on behalf of all the learning partners, I'd like to give our heartfelt thanks to Ms. Romal Fernando for sharing your knowledge and experience in the field of supply chain management, procurement, CSR, and compliance, with special emphasis on the well-being of the staff as well as the consumers. I feel I'm so grateful that you broke down the different processes and connected and shared your very impactful and resourceful knowledge. So I like to kindly request Ms. Lakshita, one of our learning partners, to present our token of appreciation to Ms. Rumal Fernando. And a special thanks goes to all our MBO lecturers, Dr. Travis, Ms. Gayani, and Ms. Sakuntala for facilitating this session. It was, we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very resourceful and timely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we will quickly try to test your knowledge. Now, we've done how many sessions? Remember? Yeah, this is the 10th session. So while we try to listen to the experiential sharing, it's time for us to little bit do some testing your knowledge as well, right? But it's an MCQ question. It's very easy. So I'm sure how many of you are exposed to Kahoot quiz? Have you done it before? Raise your hands. Okay, 1, 2. Right. Okay, so the how we do this is when I click on the link, and I will share the PIN number there. So when you see the PIN number, either you can put into the PIN number by scanning the QR code, or you can go into the kahoot.it. Just start doing it from your mobile phone now. Kahoot.it, or go into that. Go to kahoot.it.
Expect to say what is the structure, and they basically say something about the structure. Yeah. No. Yeah. No, you didn't say anything. No. Can you talk?
Yeah, you can talk.
Yeah, I think people may be curious about what this exam is going to be like. Right? Yeah, I suppose more than curious. Well, very basically, I think this is a typical structure that we normally have. That is, there will be 8 questions, out of which you have to answer 5. And see that you answer all 5, because it's very important. If you miss one, you will lose 20 marks. So each question would have 2 parts generally, because it's a closed book exam this time. So there would be a theory part and the practical part. The theory part, of course, in order to understand, really answer that theory part, I would recommend that you only read our notes. That is, our PowerPoint presentations are good enough. So just have a look at that. You don't have to read the textbook unless you want to verify something that is there. You might read it for yourself. But really, just glance through the notes, identify the principles. You don't have to cram anything. Just try to understand what those principles are. As for the second part, practical thing, you have to reflect on something that you know, because all of you have some work experience some way. You can answer that through your practical experience. So that is very basically all we can say for the exam. Just don't miss out of anything. Time your paper well, time your answers well, and don't write too much. Also, since this is a written exam, we have a major problem reading people's handwriting. So this is something that you need to try to write as clear as possible, because there are some writing absolutely cannot be read. So therefore, in that case, we have to guess. We have to guess what you have written. So that's not a very good thing. So please write clearly. Also, a little bit of advice: don't use highlighter pens, because when you write highlighter pens, you are focusing our focus on that. We will find our focus, no problem. So you don't highlight anything. Please don't highlight, because that will divert our attention. So also sometimes visuals are better than explanations. If you can explain something with a diagram or something like that, it will help us a lot to read your paper. And don't write too much also, write to the point. That's about all.
I think Dr. Travis is quite right. Actually, over the years, what we have seen is handwriting is really bad, because all of you guys are doing everything from your devices. So please, at least leave a line. If you're some kurumini akuru, you have sometimes chuti akuru kumbiara. So don't do that. Write it in a large letters, but at least leave one line so that we can clearly read. But always, like what he said, our question paper is always to share through your practical experiences. So always we will say identify a company of your choice, or a product of your choice, service of your choice. So you can always pick any example in your company or any other company example and relate it to the theory and do that. So that way we know that you have understood the theory that we have learned. So finally, at the end of the day, from an MBA, what we expect is to practice what you learned in the class. Okay? So I hope you all are quite clear about the tips that we gave about the exam, right? But unfortunately, we haven't started setting the paper as yet. So therefore, we can't remember what we will do, right? So this is the kind of tip that we always give it in the class. Clear?
Don't look for model answers.
Yeah. We don't. All of you are different. You work in different companies, different experiences. So write your experience. Of course, related experience, okay? Don't write anything unrelated. Read the question paper very clearly. Sometimes you don't read immediately. So you see the paper, you start writing. Because we have 3 hours. So spend about half an hour per question. Spend about 15 minutes to read the question. That's very important. Okay, I think you guys have lunch. This Kahoot quiz, all of you have put, I don't know, I don't see 42 only. How many are in the class today? Those who are online joining also can do this, right? So there are only 10 questions, MCQs, all sessions that we learned. I put a question here. So only in one question, there are multiple answers. So you can mark more than one answer there if you think that is there. Right, so let's start. So we'll see the leaderboard. Unfortunately, I don't have a gift. We can only give a PIM book or something. But the winner will get into the leaderboard. So 20 seconds per question. Please read it and mark it. Yeah, answers are there. You mark the appropriate answer. Quickly. 9 seconds. Quickly. Done it? Oh, 12 answers correct. Yeah, only 12. So I think you should read that last session that I taught clearly. What is a leading and a lagging indicator? So some of you said complaints, which is correct. That's a lagging indicator. All the other things are, related. So I asked, what is not? Not. Read the question clearly, right? Next one. So Ranil is leading the board. Is Ranil in the class? Yeah. Ranil? Not Ranil Vikramasinghe, no? Oh my God. No Ranil in the class, right? Online maybe. Okay. So this is the leaderboard. Okay. So go to the next one, please. Oh, correct answers. Dr. Travis must be happy. Dr. Travis must be happy. So increase in productivity. Yeah. In productivity is the correct answer. Okay. Yes. So let's see who's in the leaderboard. Still Ranil or... Oh, no. Hassan has overtaken Ranil now. Ranil is nowhere to be seen, right? Okay, as usual, right? Okay, now let's go to the next question. Liz is the highest climber. Ah, 21, but still 12 things. I'm sure you didn't read it properly. To the order, knowledge, incubation, ideas, evaluation, and implementation is the correct answer. Let's see the leaderboard. Who are in the leaderboard? Hassan is continuing to hold the top position. Okay, Ranil gone out of the board, right? Tiff is the highest climber. Okay, right. Next question, please. We have 10 questions, okay? Ah, 21 have given the correct answer. Irregular flow of work is the correct answer. I think you need to do a little bit of refreshing of your notes. Revisit, okay? You have time for the exam, okay? But you will not have MCQs. You have to write what exactly is. So you can't put the wrong answer. You'll get 0 marks, okay? Right. Okay, let's see who the leader is. Ah, now Amila has come from behind and holding the leadership position. Okay, so let's quickly go to the next one. So the correct answer is match production rate to time. That's the correct answer, right? So again, we need a lot of revisiting to be done, right? Yeah. Okay. If you had gone into each and every answer and given you why not, but unfortunately lunchtime is coming up. We have 5 more minutes to go. Question number 5, halfway mark. Red handwriting has gone. Who's that? Please, I want to see your face. Who's that? Honestly, I want to see your face. Okay. Next person. Yeah. Next slide, please. Don't get it wrong. At least majority of you feel. Okay. Okay, but still some of you felt information. Information is the glue that binds the supply chain. Remember, even Ruma said that without information, we are groping in the dark. Okay. Thank you, at least. Okay, now next one, please. Who's the leader? Oh, bad handwriting. Please, you better improve your handwriting for the paper. Okay. Okay, next one, please. Next question. Supply chain resilience session. I Buka will have changed to Bani right now. I tricked you a bit, but still, yeah, okay, 23 have actually marked it right. Right? I think I'm sure some of you must have got the 5 and 7 also. 7, I can't believe that you guys marked 7, the last one, the green, right? So we live in a Bani world now. So brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible world. So we did that in the resilience session, right? Okay, next question. Who's the leader? Oh, new guy has come now. New kid in the block. HG. Who's HG in the class? Oh, bad handwriting has gone down now. Right. So let's go to the 8th question. 2 more to go. This has multi select, right? So more than one answer is there. Forties. Right. Yes. 2 rights. Good. What are the 40s? Tolerate, treat, transfer, terminate. So insurance and outsourcing are 2 things that we transfer the risk to somebody else so that we don't need to deal with it, right? Okay, thank you. Good. Good show. Go to the next one. Who's the winner now? Oh, bad handwriting is now coming behind. Okay, right. Final question. This is the time for him to maintain his final, 9 out of 10. Time gap between production and factory people, they produce and they don't know what's happening. Yeah, but then service, then and there you experience, isn't it? So that's the answer, right? I think many of you felt labor intensive. Yes, it is. You can use technology, but you have to be there. No? When you're serving somebody, you have to be there. So it's labor intensive anyway. Okay, let's see who's on the leaderboard. Now Temia has come from behind, but bad handwriting is still there, right? Okay, next final one. Kim Woods, remember? 7 ways. Good. Many of you, but still some feel something else. So think properly. If it's meant to ring at a particular time, if it doesn't mean it's a defect, right? Maybe some of you also felt waiting, but waiting time is not a new kind of thing, no? Set to ring at that time. Okay, finally, let's see who the winner is. Temia number 3. Let's give him a big round of applause. Number 2. Why can't you do that? All right. So let us stand up 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Amila is also please. Amila in the class? Is Amila in the class? No.
No, madam, I'm online partner.
Okay, congratulations, Amila. Amy is also online learning. Okay, anyway, we don't have much to give you, but I didn't have time to buy something, but anyhow, congratulations, so let's keep it up. So I want to do this every day, but I didn't have time to do that, but at least I thought I must do it on the last day. So I hope you enjoyed it. So congratulations for doing all of this, taking part of it. Anyway, I really enjoyed the session. I think all 3 of us really enjoyed the working with you guys. Some of you engaged a lot. Some of you were very quiet. I hope you benefited from our session, and I hope you